Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. We made it up to trait 5, be positive. As I continue this 30-part series on my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork, 30 Traits of High Impact Players. Be positive. I got to tell you on that one, I ain't always been the most positive person. I used to be highly negative, and I focused on helping other people become highly negative. Even if they were not, even if they were trying to be positive, I had a lot of influence, and most often I could influence them to be negative. So I'm speaking from a place of growth today. I'm pretty much always positive. Every now and then something will get me, and I might slip a little. We all slip from time to time, but I get back on the wagon pretty quick. That's one way I know I truly value these principles that I teach. I don't fall off the wagon and stay off the wagon. I start running, catch up with that thing, and hop right back on it. But be positive. Those who whine get left behind. Maybe not immediately. Sometimes immediately. I'm sure there's somebody out there today who's going to be negative and they're going to lose their job today. Or they're going to be negative and they're going to lose their spouse today. They just had enough of it. It ain't the first time they've been negative, but it's going to be the last time in that situation they may get to be negative. So let's be positive. I'm going to start you off today with let me say before I give you this opening quote, just like I said on some of the past episodes, I'm going to try to remember to do it on every episode to help you remember to do it. But think about if people on your team, if you're part of a team, would you rather have positive people on your team or negative people on your team? See how easy it is to validate these principles? It's that simple. But which one are you? If you had to say one person's a high impact team player, would it be the positive person or the negative person? I love asking you these easy questions. If someone was a negative person on your team, would they be a high impact player or a low impact player? It's so easy. It's so easy to see it when you slow down and you look at it. But which one are you? It's easy to look out that window and see what everybody else is doing. But the key to your growth and your development and your success is looking in that mirror. A lot of people, when they start learning this stuff, they start looking out the window. They wear that window out. They start looking at everybody else. And that's fine, but you're missing the whole point. You got to look in the mirror. Yes, everybody else needs this. They may not ever get it. They may not ever want it. You need to get it. You need to want it. So if you're in an environment that's full of those people, you're going to have options. And one of them is to get away from those people. Or if you're on a team with those people, you got to model it. You can't run around talking about it, teaching it, if you ain't living it. You can't model it if you ain't living it. You can't give what you don't have. So let's talk about the opening quote from John Maxwell. John says this: people have just two choices when it comes to their emotions. They can master their emotions or be mastered by them. John was talking a little bit of truth right there. People have two choices when it comes to their emotions. They can master their emotions or be mastered by them. I can tell you what, the United States prison system, state prison, federal prison, city jail, county jail, they full of a whole lot of people who were mastered by their emotions. And there's a whole lot of people who won't never be in that situation because they have mastered their emotions. Emotions can be good leaders and bad leaders. Depends on which emotion it is, where it's trying to take you. Your emotions can make you or break you. And most often they will. They're going to do one of those two things. They're going to make you or break you. And remember, I've got a podcast series. I've already done it. I've already done it in the past. I forget. I think it's around episode, maybe it's 159, where I talk about my book, 10 Foundational Elements of Intentional Transformation, how to become your best self. If you're at Kilgore, you guys are doing that on your monthly leadership development with your vice president, Jason Denham, out there. You guys are covering that book 3 chapters at a time. And I know February, the first Saturday in February is when you kick that off with your first Saturday of the month sessions you guys do out there at Kilgore. So y'all will be covering this book 3 chapters per month. So it'll take you 10 months to get through it as a team. But I know Jason has got all of his team members, however many of you guys out there, 100 plus of you guys, I know he's already got you guys copies of that book to follow along. So if you're not part of the Kilgore team and you're not going through that, you may want to get you a copy of 10 Foundational Elements of Intentional Transformation. Or at a minimum, go back to around episode 159, listen to that 11-part series on that book. Check it out. Because it starts out, it's got a lot. I got a lot in there talking about emotions and choices and that sort of thing. Because your emotions, it starts with everything starts with your values. See, I'll give you a little nugget from that book. If you hadn't dove into that book or hadn't listened to that podcast, but your values, they're the foundation of everything. They determine what you think about. What you think about, guess what that determines? How you feel. How you feel, your feelings, there's another word for them called emotions. So it all starts with your values. So if you're having bad feelings and bad emotions, you got to go back, check on your values. And those are hard to change. But guess who can change them? There ain't but one person on this planet. Nearly 8 billion people or whatever it is out there. There's only one person that can change your values. It's the one listening to my voice at this moment. It's you. Everything I teach you, it's about character development. It's about values to help you learn how to harness your emotions. All this stuff helped me. I know it'll work because I'm going to share some stories with you as we go through here, but it was rough. I had it rough. A lot of people see me today, they don't understand. Even when I tell them, they still don't understand. They had to be there on the other end of it. Then they would understand. Those people who were there back in the old days, the way I used to be, they understand exactly what I'm telling you. You just thinking, he don't really know what he's talking about. You had to be there. But people tend to be hired for what they know. Their skills, their talents, their skills, their knowledge, their abilities. However, they tend to be fired for who they are. The attitude, their behavior, their temper. See, the fired because of who they are. Attitude, behavior, temper. Again, I just said it. I repeated it on purpose because those things relate to your emotions. Are you negative or positive? That's about your emotions, your feelings. Are you shining or whining? That's about your emotions, your feelings. High impact team players strive to be positive. And if you're on a team, I guarantee you'd rather be on a team with positive people instead of negative people. The reason I say you, because you're either a high impact team player already or you're working very hard to become one and you're listening to me. There are some people they love being negative. Again, I used to be one of those people. So people who love being negative, they don't want a lot of positive people on their team. They want a bunch of negative people on their team. You see, that's what they value versus what we value. That's why when you start cultural transformation, you're trying to get people to change their values or align with the values they pretend to have and maybe want to have, but they ain't really living it. And then those people who don't want to get on board and get aligned, well, guess what? We're going to miss them. They're going to choose to become irrelevant. Hopefully they'll leave you before you have to leave them, because if they leave, it's usually quicker. If they'll quit and go find them a job, work somewhere else with a bunch more negative people, it'd probably help you, because if you listen to this, you're probably a little too nice when it comes to these negative people. So you're going to give them a little too long. So it's going to damage your positive people. They got to work with these people every day. They wishing the leader would hurry up and do the right thing. And it's all right to give people time. I'm just saying, it'd be better if those people who are negative, if they don't really want to change, it's better if they just move on. Because it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And the team that stays behind who wants to be positive, the high impact people, they're going to be a little bit more positive once those negative people are gone. And a lot more things, a lot more of these traits are going to rise a little higher within them, because their emotions are impacted by these negative people. They bring everybody down. You get tired of it. And again, I used to be that person, but I ran with a pack of negative people. We kept stuff stirred up at work all the time. You let a supervisor say something wrong, do something wrong, or have to bring something down from up above that we didn't like. Oh, I was the tip of the spear back then, but I was a different kind of tip of the spear. I was a tip of the spear that causing chaos for all the managers. And if y'all listen to enough of my podcasts, you know I never been fired. I should have been a lot of times, but I never was. The reason I wasn't was because I was a high producer. I was very productive. I got the work done. But I caused a lot of chaos. I caused a lot of stress and frustration with my leaders. But there was no leadership development, no workforce development, no character development. None of the stuff I talk about happened in that organization. If it did, I would have lost my job. I wouldn't have probably ever even had a job there. But all the organizations I worked in, this type content, in the 20 years I worked in manufacturing, it was never a part of the process. All the leaders wish people be positive. They hoped they would, but they didn't help us be positive. They just hoped we would be positive. There's a lot of difference between hoping something will happen and helping something happen. That's why book studies and podcasts and all this stuff, if you're a leader, getting it out to your people, getting them immersed into it so it can soak in. You got to keep it going constant. I call it the leadership drip. You got to keep it going constantly, because you're trying to help people change their values. So you got to keep it top of mind. You got to keep it in front of them. You got to have people modeling it. You got to have people talking about it. You got to get them slowed down so they can listen and think about it themselves, which is what happens on a book study, during a book study, or when they listen to a podcast and you talk about it. You can take these podcasts, play 5 minutes of it, or play it till it gets to a good talking point, pause it, talk about it to a team of people. Then let it play till you get to the next good talking point, pause it, talk about it. You could take a 30-minute podcast. If you're stopping it, pausing it, and talking about it, this thing could last you a couple of weeks, because you may not be able to play the whole thing plus talk about all the stuff, the content in one setting. You'd be there all day. All you got to do is play it. You could play a little bit till you got to one good talking point. Talk about it for however long you want to talk about it. Make a note where you finished, and you stop it right there. You go carry on about your day. Next day, you could do the same thing. Or the next week, if you're going to do it daily or weekly, you could take one podcast and stretch it out. They may get interested and buy the books on their own, or they may want to hear the rest of the podcast. So they go start listening to it, so they ain't got to wait on you. That's what you want. You want people to get interested in growing and developing themselves. If they listen to this one today, they're going to be focused on being positive, like you are. When it comes to teamwork, emotions matter a lot because emotions are contagious. You think the COVID or coronavirus or whatever you want to call it was contagious? Oh, try some negative emotions. Negativity is the most contagious of all. It's easy to catch and easy to spread. Positivity is contagious too, but negativity is highly contagious. And something about negativity. Negativity will have a terrible impact on your career. It reduces your income, makes you less likely to be promoted, minimizes the opportunities that will come your way, and decreases your influence. And then guess what all that's going to do? It's going to make you mad. Because if negativity is the root of what's causing that, oh, you're going to be mad about it. You're going to be mad because you don't get the raise. You're going to be mad because you don't get the promotion. You're going to be mad because you're missing opportunities and other people are getting them. You're going to be mad because the boss won't listen to you because you ain't got influence. You're going to be mad because of the high impact people don't want to hear nothing you got to say or don't want to implement any of your ideas because you don't have any influence. And the reason I know you're going to be mad because you're negative is what got you there. So if negativity got you there, you're going to be mad about it because you got those kind of emotions inside of you. The first thing you got to do is help people create that awareness, the root cause, slow down what's causing your problem. You know, and in this book, if you haven't got the hard copy of this book, there's a fictional character I created. I call him Blue Collar Bob, and I'm telling you a little bit of a story through Blue Collar Bob. At the end of some of the chapters, I give you a paragraph or two or three from Bob's frame of reference relative to what he's learning. So you missing out on a good story with old Blue Collar Bob if you don't have the hard copy of this book or if you don't have the audio version where you can hear it. But them negative emotions, they're contagious and they attract other negative emotions. They attract other people who have negative emotions, and it creates a rough life. Like back when I had so much negativity in me, I had no idea it was holding me back because I was blaming everybody else. I blamed the boss. I blamed my coworkers. I blamed the positive people for sucking up, for brown nosing, all that stupid stuff I used to say and do. And I wasn't going to suck up and I wasn't going to brown nose. But guess what? I never did. But I finally figured it out and I started growing. I never had to suck up. I never had to brown nose and all those things that people say. I didn't have to do all that. What I realized, though, most of those people I thought were doing that were not doing that either, but I didn't know any better. So my negativity kept me on the front lines. It's one reason I'm so passionate about talking to the frontline workforce. Most of the people on the front lines, they got a desire to grow and do better and be better and have a better life. Now, most of them, because again, I was one of those frontline people. I love the frontline work. I love the frontline work. I still like the real work, doing the job. I like the frontline activities that go on. I love all that stuff. I call that the real work. I love it. Only problem with it is it doesn't pay enough, and you don't get to keep doing that same frontline work and grow your income 2 times, 10 times, 5 times, 100 times, whatever it might be. You usually keep getting, if you're at the bottom, you usually keep getting paid like you at the bottom. That's the problem with it. But see what those people can do, instead of getting angry and mad, even if they love doing that work, they can start their own business. Or if they can start to be positive and they can get promoted, they can be one of the best leaders that's ever been in that position. They can't keep doing the work all the time, but if they will actually lead and develop their team, they can do as much of that work as they want to do. They can be part of the team. The team's going to love them because the leader's still getting involved and getting engaged and getting their hands dirty and their clothes dirty or whatever it might be. But see, a manager of people ain't got time to get engaged in the activity because they run around managing everything. They micromanaging. They all in the middle of everything. But a leader's growing and developing the people. So the people are making it happen. So the leader's got some things that the leader's going to have to do because they're the only ones that can do it. If they don't do it, it's not going to happen because nobody else has that responsibility. So they got to do that stuff. But a leader who can still get involved with the team, they're going to build a lot of trust and respect. Now, there's another kind of leader that gets involved too. They're the ones who don't know how to lead, so they can't get any results. And they also don't even know how to manage. So the only way they can appear to be doing anything is they have to stay doing the work. They have to keep doing the work. They have to stay engaged because they don't like managing or they don't like leading or they're not good at either one, but they're good at the work. Those are not good people to have in a formal authority leadership position. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them in that position. So the people like them because they work and they get involved, but the bosses don't like it because they're missing out on some management activities and they're missing out on a lot of leadership activity because they're still engaged doing the work. But in those cases, those people are never being developed. If they were being developed, they wouldn't have that issue. Neither would the leaders. All this stuff just kind of snowballs when you're not doing workforce development and leadership development. You got all kinds of problems and chaos everywhere. But those who whine, when it comes to high impact teams, those who whine should expect to be left behind. Just like when cultural transformation happens. A lot of people are whining at the start. But as time passes, there's a whole lot less whiners. It's because they get left behind. They either change and get on board, or either they quit, or either they get fired. But as time passes, there'll be a lot less whiners. And also the people who are hiring new people, as they grow and develop as part of the cultural transformation, they'll start to hire better people, meaning higher character people. So there'll be less whiners brought into the organization. But the people who are hiring, they've got to grow and develop. And the worst thing you can do is have a whiner doing the hiring. And that's another reason leaders who are positive, a lot of times they take too long to do what's the right thing. So the right thing is if you got somebody doing hiring or promoting people, it better be the ones who are positive. Why in the world would you ever want somebody who's negative to be hiring people or promoting people? Because negative people attract negative people. Positive people attract positive people. So the negative people are not going to want to hire or promote the positive people. They want to hire and promote the negative people who are like them. So if you're a high impact leader and you're high on the org chart and you're allowing negative people to be engaged in the hiring and promoting process, you're killing your team. The team you're counting on, you're killing them. You're making it hard on them. You may not even be a formal authority leader today, but if you strive to be, remember the lesson I just taught you. Do not let the negative people engage in hiring and promoting people. It's absolutely crazy if you're trying to transform an organization or if you're trying to build a high performance team. You as a leader got to develop your character enough to understand what can't be tolerated in specific positions. And one of them is hiring and promoting. Cannot be the negative people. Cannot be the whiners. Cannot be the people who are not on board. One of the first things you got to do if you are an upper level leader or you get promoted into an upper level leader position and you've got authority and you can do something about it, you got to fix that stuff. You got to go talk to those people and say, hey, I don't want to get rid of you. I don't want to take this responsibility away from you, or whatever it is you're going to do with somebody. You may not fire them. You may just take the responsibility away. Either way, you want to try to maintain trust. Tell them why you're doing it. Give them an opportunity to change. Let them know if you don't change, though, you done doing this. You done hiring people. You done promoting people. You don't get to play in that park anymore. You may still be valuable to the team, but you don't get to do that anymore. You're not valuable in that capacity. And if you're a high impact leader and you do that, you're going to build a lot of trust because everybody's watching. Everybody already knows. All the high impact people, I shouldn't say everybody, all the high impact people, what I just taught you, they already know. If you didn't know or hadn't thought of what I just shared, I'm telling you, the high impact people, they already know. They also already know you ain't doing nothing about it. But they got hope for you. If they still there, they still hoping you're going to do the right thing at some point. High impact players are easy to spot in a negative crowd. Let me tell you why. They either going to be silent or they're going to be positive. That's what happens when a high impact player finds themselves in a negative crowd. Say it's at work, at the lunch table, at break, just hanging around, wherever they're at, they're either going to be silent or be positive. But they ain't going to be negative. The only people going to be negative are the negative people. And that negativity spreads. You can't be frustrated, angry, and positive at the same time. It don't work like that. You can't be frustrated, angry, and positive at the same time. So when you choose to be positive, you are saying no to frustration and anger. You are living and modeling a high impact player trait, that trait of be positive. It's going to increase your influence with other positive people who have already mastered this emotion. Remember, who we are is who we attract. So if you decide to be positive today, in the last 10 years you've been negative, a lot of those positive people, they ain't going to believe you're really there yet. So you're going to have to develop a track record. You're going to have to get it right more than once or twice. You may have to get it ready. I mean, you may have to validate it for weeks and months. Depends on how negative you were in the past. Because everybody's going to be thinking, he ain't going to make it. She's doing good today, but you just wait till something happens. You don't see. This ain't for real. They hoping you make it, but they ain't trusting you 100% that you actually made it yet. When you choose to be frustrated and angry, you are saying no to being positive. You holding your hand up, screaming, running around, yelling and screaming. Not really, but you really are, without making any noise beyond you being negative and being frustrated and angry. But figuratively, you're running around hollering and screaming, I'm negative. I ain't a high impact team player. And again, your negative people, they're going to support you. You're going to be best buds with the negative folks. They're going to pat you on the back. You're going to be like, awesome. They're going to give you some, they're going to motivate and inspire you to keep doing it. They're going to fan the flame because they love it. They glad you doing it and they ain't got to do it. So you can take the heat or the hit, whichever one comes. But the positive people, those ones that are either being silent or being positive, or they paying attention to you. You hadn't been, your behavior hasn't went unnoticed by those folks. So as Jeffrey Gitomer stated, he says a positive attitude is a self-imposed blessing. Think about that. A positive attitude is a self-imposed blessing. I'll tell you this one. A negative attitude is a self-imposed curse. A negative attitude, if a positive attitude is a self-imposed blessing, and I believe it is, I also believe a negative attitude is a self-imposed curse. So I'm going to wrap it up with today's closing quote from Daniel Goleman. He said, controlling impulses like frustration and anger is a crucial aspect of character. And as you already know, I agree 100%. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Who I am today, I don't hang around negative people. I don't talk with negative people. I ain't got time for negative people. And I'm going to tell you what, other high impact people, they don't either. And again, it doesn't matter what their job is. They may be a frontline entry-level person. But if they got a high degree of character, especially in this trait, positive versus negative, They ain't got time for negative people. That's just the way we are. And most negative people, that's the way they are. They ain't got time for positive people. You got to decide who you want to run with. If you're a formal authority leader, you got to decide who you want on your team. And then you got to prove it to everybody. Not just talk about it. You got to prove it with your actions. You can't tell everybody to be positive while you allowing all the negative people to just run wild. Doesn't work like that. Your best people going to leave. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.